Welcome to Wire Guild. This is a skill set video, and in it I'm going to show you how to make just a really simple clasp, just, something for everyday use. So I have two bits of wire. This one's 2.5 inches, the other one's 3 inch, but we're using the 2.5 inch first. And we're going to make the eye. There we go. So the round nose pliers will create that circle in the end. Now, just to show you, obviously, whatever size pliers you use, that's the loop that you're going to get. If you use really little ones, as you can see, there's a huge difference there. And you need to be able to get your hook to go in this. So I'm using a larger pair of pliers to create the loop in the end. Now, I grip the wire about halfway down. If you want, you can always put this against a ruler and mark the middle. I tend to do it by eye. And then, once you've got it gripped in the centre, I'm just bending one of the wires around. And I'm going to bend that all the way around and past. Now, just bring the other one up to meet it. And then using your flat pliers, just bend that at a right angle. It just means we get a proper circle at the end, rather than getting a slightly teardrop shape. Then wrap the end around. You can go around as many times as you like. It alters the way it looks. Obviously, if you go around 2 or 3 times, it's reasonably short. If you want to go around a lot and have a really long length in the middle, you would need to use more wire. So I've gone around sort of 2.5, 3 times there, and I'm just going to trim off the excess bit of wire. And then there's a little sticky up bit and a dog hair, sorry about that, and put the pliers back on. And what I'm going to do is just smooth that over, just over the top, press down and smooth it. If I show you on my finger, you can see how I'm going like over my thumbnail, fingernail. It's the same thing. Smooth it over the top. And then when you slide it off, you can see that you've got a lovely little circular loop. Now, to make the other end, I'm going to use down at the tip of the pliers because it doesn't need to be anywhere near as big, and grip where you want that circle to start. There we go. There, can you see better if I do it at that angle? You can see how much room I've got, and then I can twist it. Again, this is one of those things, it's up to you. It doesn't matter where you do it, as long as the wire goes around and wraps around. Using one side, wrap all the way down and around, so it crosses over. Now, if you were adding this to a chain, at this point you would loop that through and onto your chain. I'm not going to bother adding it to a chain, so I'm just going to show you. So I've just gripped again with the tip of my round nose pliers, and I'm just going to wrap that wire around. It's not really gripping because it's such a tiny hole, so I'm going to grip straight across the loop instead of trying to go in it like I did with the other end. And then just wrap that round 2 or 3 times. It really is quite a little hole that I've left, but I'll have another go at that in a minute. So in the meantime, just holding it over the top and binding around. Oops. There we go. When you get to the point where you've wrapped it around enough, what you can do is you can trim the end off, or like with me, there's nothing to trim off there, so I'm just going to keep going. And all I'm doing is just smoothing it down. Now, because that end hole is so tiny, it's not quite circle, I'm going to use a smaller pair of pliers just to even, there we go, that circle up a bit, so it just looks a little bit neater. And that is our loop to our little clasp. Just straighten it up with the pliers. There we go. Really easy. So now we need to make, now as you can see, let me just show you this other loop. There's no gap between those two there, but there is on the other one. They always work out different. So let's go on to the hook part. So I've got 3 inches of wire. Let me just show you how it goes when it's finished. So what I need to do is get about in the middle. Now, like I say, either mark it or just grip it with your fingers like I'm going to do, so that I know roughly where the middle is. And I'm going to take the end of my round nose pliers, the smallest end up near the top, and just bend on one side, bend on the other, till you make like a U shape, and then twist the pliers and push, and then go back the other way and twist the pliers and push. You're using the other jaw of the pliers to push the other two wires together, so you're left with like a little keyhole or a cotter pin, something like that. If it's bent slightly, just ease it flat with some flat pliers. The length of the stem is, let me just get this into the right sort of place. I want about 1/2 inch, just over 1/2 inch. And I've got my fingers on there, and I'm going to put a pair of pliers straight across and grip. Then take one of the wires. I usually take the shorter of the two because it's guaranteed you never get it quite in the middle. So not with the round nose pliers, they don't grip very well. And get hold of that wire and then bend it up against my pliers. Yep, like that. This separates the two wires off and means you can sort of access that other wire easier. And then grip it and just wrap it around. As long as your other pliers don't slip, nothing will move and it'll go where you're meant to do. This is always difficult because I've got camera in front of me and I'm trying to sort of see around the camera while I'm doing it. But actually, it's so easy as this clasp to make. So I'm going to wrap that round sort of 2 or 3 times, and then just, if there's a little gap between the wraps, you can put your pliers over the top and just squeeze them together, and then any little gap just goes away. And then cut off any excess and smooth the end down exactly like we did with the other one. Now, often if I'm making these to use later, this is the point that I stop. The end is going to be made into a little loop like we did on the other end. But normally if I'm making them just for stock, I put them away at that point and then only make the loop when I'm adding it to a chain. So round nose pliers would go on, and then bend back slightly so that my circle is going to be central. Let me get this in so that you can see it. There we are. And then just wrap it down round smaller end of the pliers and past. I haven't left myself a lot of wire, I must admit here. I should have really been a little bit closer, but we've got enough to manage with. I'll put the pliers back in and start and wrap that round. It's only going to wrap around once. And like I say, it's a little bit tight, which is why I keep slipping off. But don't worry, there's plenty to do what we need it to do. So I'll push that down and the loop. Now, to make this into your hook, we take the round nose pliers and we go over the top of that circle that we created in the end. So over the top of that bit with the pliers and bend it upwards just a bit. And then grip just below the loop, further down the pliers, and then just ease that all the way over and press down with your fingers. And that gives you a lovely little hook which fastens onto your eye and makes a hooking eye clasp. Sweet! And much cheaper than buying findings from somewhere else. You always have to think about these things. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you very much for watching. See you next time.